get my stuff in order here and get the right screen up. All right. So this is Aurora's Committee of Adjustment meeting, December the 11th. I'll start this evening by introducing the members of the committee and staff. My name is Tom Plamondon, and I am the chair of the committee. And the remaining members are as follows. Clarence Louis is the vice chair. Steve D'Angeli, Daniel Lajeunesse, and Michelle Boyer are with us, members of the committee. The secretary treasurer is Bershante Manaharan. The planner this evening is Matthew Peverini. Good evening, Matthew. So this is a public meeting, and it is being held in a audio video format. It is being conducted virtually through the use of Zoom technology. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and create a record that is available to the general public, including on the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk. Please be advised that the reports being considered tonight are available on the Town of Aurora website and through staff at the town's planning department. Should you wish to receive notification of any of the decisions of tonight's meeting, please complete the appropriate form available through the town staff. However, owners and agents will automatically be notified. For each application that will be considered tonight, the following process will occur. I will briefly outline the purpose of the application, and then the applicant or agent will then be given the opportunity to make a presentation. However, one is not required. It is the applicant's decision whether they wish to speak or let the application proceed on the merits of the information as received. Following any initial comments from the applicant, I will invite members of the public who have an interest in the application to come forward and address the committee. Those members of the public who wish to speak must clearly state their name and address and must provide this information to the secretary treasurer. Should you wish to obtain a copy of the notice of decision, please complete the appropriate form available through the secretary treasurer at the Town of Aurora. Members of the public are reminded that text comments are not permitted during the meeting, and that they will not be noted in any manner or at any time. Each individual may speak only once on an issue, and once discussion has commenced in respect of a motion, no further presentations shall be made. If you require technical assistance with your presentation, please let me know. Please ensure that all questions and or comments are directed through me as the chair, and if relevant, I will request the appropriate person respond. It should be noted that the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond to any question or comment should the committee feel that it is appropriate. And you will notice that we changed the comments, my intro comments, in order to reflect the fact that we are doing this through a Zoom. And just remind everyone that we have had comments. People would be typing in and circulating throughout the meetings, which we would ask that we refrain from doing so. So we'll begin the meeting. I will look to members of the committee for an approval of this evening's agenda, please. Clarence, please.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, move to approve the agenda of tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Seconded by Michelle. Thank you. All in favor? Lots of hands. Thank you very much. That carries. I'll ask members of the committee if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. And none here, and seeing none from any of the members. Thank you. Moving on, item 3, adoption of the minutes. So I'll look to the committee to adopt the minutes of meeting November 12th, 2020, and that's meeting number 20-08. Stephen.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the minutes as circulated for the meeting number 20-8 held on November 12th, 2020.
Thank you. Seconder for that, please. Daniel, thank you very much. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. So moving on to the applications for this evening. The first item on the agenda is a minor variance application for 152 William Graham Drive. This is minor variance 2020-24. And the applicant is requesting the following relief from the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw 6000-17 as amended to permit a reduced rear yard setback for a newly proposed one-story addition. A, section 24.408.2.2 allows a minimum rear yard of 7 meters for additions. The applicant is proposing a one-story sunroom addition with a rear yard setback of 4.5 meters. And planning division's comments on the official plan indicate that the proposed addition is in keeping with the surrounding context and character of the existing neighborhood. Therefore, staff are of the opinion that it meets the general intent of the official plan. With regards to the zoning bylaw, planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed minor variance maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. And with regards to the appropriateness of the development, the applicant has worked with staff to revise the rear yard setback originally requested, resulting in an increased setback of 4.5 meters from the rear yard property line, which is sufficient in the opinion of staff. Therefore, staff are of the opinion that the variance is compatible with the surrounding area and represents appropriate development of the property. And it is minor in nature because it is a modest building addition. Other departments and agencies comments. Engineering services have reviewed the above noted variance application, have no concerns with its approval. Building division, the preliminary zoning was conducted, no comments provided specifically on the application at the time of the writing of this report. Operational Services Parks Division, no formal comments regarding the above application. And Accessibility Advisor, Legal Services, and Traffic Analyst all reviewed the application and have no objection. Central York Fire Services, no comments were received at the time of the writing of the report. Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, they're recommending any approval of this application for consent be subject to two conditions. That the owner pay all the development fees to the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority in accordance with the fee policy, and that's A, and B, that the owner obtain a permit under the Ontario 179-06 regulation prior to the proposed development and site alteration taking place. The regional municipality of York completed its review of the minor variance for the property and has no comment. Hydro 1 reviewed the documents concerning the noted plan and have no comments. Electric Utilities have reviewed the proposed variance and have no objections. So we'll ask the applicant if they are with us and wish to make a presentation.
Hi guys, Matt Jackwitz here, Four Seasons Sunrooms. How are you?
Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, thanks for having me. I could make a presentation if committee would like. My only comment or question would be, I didn't know that this property was regulated under Lake Simcoe Region Conservation. But if we do have to seek their approvals or development fees, then I will communicate that with the homeowners. I was not aware of that as a requirement.
Yeah, it's Matt, it is in the appendix of the staff report. Those become conditions if the committee does approve the request.
Yep, not a problem. I think I just missed that in that report when I read it.
Okay. Matt, this particular, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be jumping in at this point. My apologies.
No problem.
So is there now anything that you want to add to your comments, Matt, or are you okay with us just going ahead?
I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. What we're really building is a solarium or a glass room enclosure. You know, it's a place where you can enjoy the outdoors longer. And obviously in this country, I think this is a huge benefit to most properties. And I wish more people would do them, and I wish it was easier to get approvals in the future. Having said that, it's getting more challenging and complicated, but we understand, and we're here seeking your support and approval.
All right, thank you, Matt. And just Bruce Anthony, I don't believe we have anyone from the public this evening who wants to address the committee, if I'm correct on that.
You're correct. Through you, Mr. Chair, we have no delegates for this application.
Thank you, Prashanthi. Appreciate that. I'll just turn it over then to members of the committee if they have any comments or questions. Daniel, please go right ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, a question for the representative. That property, because of the way that it's situated at a corner, shares a tip, if you wish, with, I believe it's 400 Hartwell. With the extension of the property or the area of seating area and an elevation of approximately, by the looks of it, 3.5 feet, is there any concerns, or has the neighbor at 400 been contacted in terms of a potential privacy issue, in terms of looking into their backyard at a fairly easy angle?
To my knowledge, I don't know if the homeowner did speak with that property with regards to that issue. What I find is our homeowners or our customers also have sometimes privacy concerns. And so a lot of the times, we actually sent in a PDF document that showed some pictures of examples of things that we've built that's very similar to what's being proposed here. And you'll notice that a lot of these rooms do end up having blinds and privacy, just like regular windows in a home. So most people do create some privacy because these things do turn into, you can say, a fishbowl, especially at night when you turn the lights on. So there's usually some. So there's an example of one where the privacy wasn't a concern. But if you go to the next picture, the next slide, keep on going. There should be. Keep going. One more. Next. One more. So there's what it would look like on the exterior, and then this is the interior. So you can see here, this client actually has these red blinds that's in the corner that they pull over to create privacy that way.
Yeah, my main thought is simply because of the fact that there would be an increased elevation to this addition versus just a regular patio of, like I said, about a meter high. And then the fence only being, what's the average, 1.4 meters for a fence. So there might be a concern there. My recommendation simply would be that the homeowner lets the property owner know at 400. But apart from that, I'm looking at it and seems okay, but it's just the way that the properties are pretty much touching at the tips. There might be a concern of looking into less of the neighbor looking into the new addition, but the new addition looking nicely into the kitchen of the other property.
Yeah.
So I would recommend some form of communication there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We always encourage our customers to do speak to the neighbors, especially when it comes time for committees of adjustments and those kind of things. What we found is that if they are consulted prior, there tends to be more of an understanding what's being built and less opposition generally.
Exactly.
So we actually did speak with the homeowner regarding that. The language might be a bit of a barrier there. Having said that, I would strongly encourage them to do it again, and I'll be happy to go there with them and even go speak to those neighbors as well and explain to them what it is being proposed. So if that helps committee to make their decision, by all means.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good question, Daniel. That was something I was going to bring up as well, given our experience on this committee that we have had lately. And I'll look to any other member of the committee who wants to ask a question or make a comment on this application. Stephen, you look good. Clarence looks good. All right. Yeah, this is something that has come up in the past. More, Matt, just to put some context to it, with people building decks, and there are provisions in the zoning bylaw which the committee has been now made aware of, where a deck above grade would be required to provide some screening or privacy material, where the side yard is not excessive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that comment is coming from.
Yeah, if there's
Alrighty,
sorry about that. If I could just interject there for a second, there is that one wall that is facing, now it's not facing directly that property that Daniel mentioned, but it's facing the property directly beside. That will be a solid wall due to glass restrictions and limiting distance. So I don't know if that helps a bit with some of that privacy concerns.
Yeah, I believe that does actually, and that's a requirement in the building code, is it not, Matt?
Yes, it is, because I think we're too close to the property line to get any glass there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll look to members of the committee, unless anyone has anything further for a recommendation on this application. Daniel, yes.
Thank you. Through the chair, I move that we approve MV 2020-24 as outlined in the document, with all of the conditions as noted, and without being a requirement, just the recommendation and the request that communication happen with the neighbor. But apart from that, as is. Thank you.
I'll look for a member of the committee to second that motion. Michelle, thank you very much. Call the question. All in favor of the motion as put forward? And that carries. Thank you very much. So Matt, it looks like you have our blessing and approval for this minor variance. And again, just the recommendation being that the owner, with your assistance, reach out to the neighbors just to make sure that any privacy issues are addressed.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much, and ladies, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you. You as well. I love the hat, by the way. Take care, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Or Michelle thanks you. All right. Next item on the agenda this evening is minor variance application. This is a an item that has previously come before our group. This is Hollage Properties Incorporated for 108-170 Hollage Boulevard. This is minor variance 2020-10. The staff report has been updated as of December the 10th. I'll just briefly summarize the staff report dated June the 15th, 2020, which is attached as Appendix A, has been updated. This item was originally considered at the June 18th meeting of the Committee of Adjustment, where at that meeting, a motion to defer this item to a future meeting was approved by the Committee of Adjustment. This was in order to facilitate the property's owner and Baywell Community Ratepayers Association to review the concerns that were expressed initially at the meeting. As a result, the Baywell Community Ratepayers Association entered into a Memorandum of Understanding, an MOU, which addresses the ratepayers' concerns and outlines agreed upon restaurant uses and associated terms within the commercial plaza. It's important to note that staff's opinion that the MOU is a private matter between the property owner and the ratepayers as such. And as such, staff will not be recommending that adherence to the MOU be added as a condition of approval for the subject minor variance application. So moving forward from there, I don't believe that anything has really changed from the initial application. However, I'll just refresh members of the committee and the applicant. The owner is requesting relief from the requirements of the Town of Aurora Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 6000-17 as amended to permit a restaurant use on the subject lands. Section 24.187.1 permits a maximum of one restaurant, drive-through special. The applicant is proposing a restaurant as a permitted use. And I'll just quickly go to the comments that we have already reviewed, but very quickly, Planning Department's position has not changed with regards to the official plan zoning, the appropriateness of the development, of the use of the lot, the property, and also the nature of the variance being minor. The comments that were received from Building Division, that a preliminary zoning review was completed, Engineering Division, no concerns with the proposed application. Operational Services Division, Accessory Advisory, same, no comments were with the proposed, or concerns rather, with the proposed application. Central York Fire Services, no comments had been received at the time of the writing of the report. Legal Services had no concerns with the proposed application. And the regional municipality and Electra utilities had no concerns or objection to the approval of the application. So we are back again, and I'll ask for comments from the applicant. I believe we have Julian DeGasperis here and Daniel Frastaglio.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members and staff present.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hope you're all doing well and keeping safe, and thank you for having us this evening. I'm the representative along with Daniel for Hollage Properties, Inc. And Mr. Chair, I think you've summed it up pretty well, the history of the application. We were considered in June already. And at the request of the committee, and in addition to the staff report and our ability to meet the four tests of the Planning Act, we have gone back and worked with the neighboring resident association, the Baywell Ratepayers Association, and have come in good faith to an MOU regarding the permitted restaurant uses. And we've had numerous phone calls and meetings with the representatives of the association, and just want to highlight for anyone that's not privy, it's the request and conditions of approval are for a maximum of 1 restaurant use with a maximum size of 136 meters squared. And our memorandum of understanding was signed on the 16th day of November. And should you, Mr. Chair, any of the committee have any questions, we're here to answer them as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Appreciate that. Daniel, are you okay with comments that Julian have made, or wish to add to any of that?
Dan doesn't have a microphone, so I think that's a yes.
Okay. So I'll ask if there is anyone else from the public who wishes to address the committee. Bershanti, I think Randy Henderson was slated to be with us, and there he is. Good evening, Randy. Nice to see you. So I'll ask Randy if there was anything that you wanted to speak to with regards to this application.
Yeah. Good evening. Yeah, I was getting, it sounded like there was a couple of people talking there, so I wasn't following on quite well. Yes, Mr. Chairperson and the committee, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so my purpose here tonight is just to represent the Baywell Community Ratepayers Association, give you a little bit of context for where we oh, that was kind of odd. Sorry, I just had feedback again, but
Randy, if you sorry to interrupt you, I think if you close the YouTube link.
Yeah, it's YouTube, I think, that's giving you trouble, Randy. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, my family's watching another Zoom meeting in the other room, so there's a lot going on. Yeah, so I'm just representing the residents group. I wanted to give you, I guess, a little bit of context for kind of where we were 6 months ago with the original application and kind of where we are at this point. I think where we are is that memorandum of understanding. Where we were at when the committee initially heard this application was, from a resident standpoint, there was a very low level of trust, because until the committee had directed Hull's Properties, or TAC, I'll say, to engage the local residents for 20 years, they had not proactively done that in reference to their request for variations or zoning changes on this property. So that's kind of where we were, and you could see that with the written submissions and the in-person submissions at that time. So in the spirit of what the committee had asked, we did work with Julian and Daniel to come up with the memorandum of understanding. And you know, still it's a bit of a leap of faith, because as the chairperson mentioned, there's really no checks and balances in terms of what the town can provide, you know, if the memorandum is not lived up to. So it is a leap of faith for the residents, but we're confident. Hopefully, you know, Julian had mentioned that you know, to a certain extent, the profitability of this property can be positively impacted by the restaurant, or by a restaurant, if you know, such a person or entity wanted to open one. So you know, we all partake of the businesses there, so hopefully it's something that works out for both parties. I mean, that's our ideal situation. like I say, there's still a lot of skepticism. Hopefully time will show that this was the right move for everybody, for, Julian and TAC and the committee and the Residents Association. But I did want to be on here tonight to let the committee know that we've been working in good faith with the property owner, and also that the application, if it's approved, gets approved with that maximum one additional restaurant, to what is already there. The size is, if it can be approved with those. I understand that the terms of the memorandum of understanding can't be a condition of the Committee of Adjustments decision, but if it could be referred to or referenced, just in case 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years down the road, we're sitting here again, which we're all hoping not to be. But if we are, then ideally we can refer back to that if this whole process starts again. So that's really all I wanted to say, on behalf of the residents, the Ratepayers Association. So I think that's about it for now. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, Randy. And for a point of clarification, let me just reassure you that Appendix A, which do include the recommended conditions of approval, do limit the number of restaurants to one, and that the restaurant use shall have a maximum commercial floor area of 136 square meters. And third, that no seating area devoted for the consumption of food by the public shall be provided except within the restaurant. Those were the three conditions that the committee had recommended to us in the staff report. So those are still there, and they can be referenced again in a motion that does come forward if the committee decides that that's the direction it wants to go. And the other thing that I will mention as well, and I think all parties, including the town, by the way, will confirm that a memorandum of understanding is exactly that. It's between the two parties, and that that is the extent to which it can be applied. It cannot be a condition of the Committee of Adjustment, nor does the town have any means to enforce that. So it is incumbent on both parties to live up to that. Before I do go any further, I did want to clarify that those points. Prashanthi, I don't believe that there are any other members of the public that are here this evening that wanted to speak to this. Am I correct?
You're correct. It's only Mr. Henderson that's delegating today.
All right, terrific. The other thing then, I'll go ahead, Steve. Sorry,
through you, Mr. Chair. If we could, ask some questions of the delegate here at this point.
Sure, by all means. Yeah, I jumped in. I apologize.
Sure. Mr. Henderson, if I could ask, your Ratepayers Association, how many members does it have?
I believe there's about 23.
Okay. And do you represent all, or do you know how many of the properties property backs onto?
The back onto it?
Yeah,
I can't say that, because there are some on the north side of, well, the leg of Baywell Crescent that is immediately north of the plaza.
Right.
There's the houses that back onto the plaza, and then there's the one across the other side of the street. So there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4. There's probably, I'm guessing, 7 to 8 of the houses on the opposite side. I myself back directly on, and then on this side, there's 1, 2. I guess the balance would be, so probably 10 or so of the properties
okay.
on this side. So once again, I don't have an exact breakdown. It's probably about, in terms of the makeup, 60% from the side that back on, and about 40% from the other side.
Fair enough. Thank you. I was just trying to, as I'm sure you're aware, we had a significant amount of delegates at the first hearing and our committee meeting.
Those pretty much every one of those delegates, I believe, is a part of the group of us that the Baywell Community Ratepayers Association. So they're all apprised of what we've been going through.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
And we've also, sorry to interject again, we did set up both by email and by WhatsApp group, communications. So we were trying to make sure that as many people as possible were involved and had the opportunity to voice their opinions.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's all for me, Mr. Chair.
Michelle, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I have a question for Julian, if that's okay. We looked at this application back in June, so that was 6 months ago. And right now the zoning allows, or the permitted use includes, a number of different kinds of shops, clinics, retail stores, dry clean, financial institutions, offices, places of entertainment, retail stores, service shops, personal, and a maximum of 1 restaurant. So you've had like 6 months to take a look at potential tenants coming in, yet we're back here 6 months later and we're asking for another restaurant. Have you had interest, given that it's been 6 months, have you had has the interest been with another potential restaurant? So do you have a potential tenant in mind already with this, given that it's been 6 months and there was the opportunity certainly to try and pitch to these other types of commercial uses?
Sure. So Daniel, can you try, you're unmuted now, so can you tell me if your microphone works? Daniel's our leasing manager. There we go.
Can you hear me or not?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, great. Well, yeah, we've had the property marketed for the past 6 months, and the issue is with a lot of these restaurateurs is that if they come to you and you say and they say, well, let's this is what we want to do, and then we have to say, well, it's conditional upon getting that approval, and that and then everyone just starts to back away. It sort of doesn't work the way that you might think that. Let's say, okay, we'll wait and we'll put an offer to lease in, and we'll hang around for the 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever it may take to get the approval. So I've done that in the past, and they say, well, come back to us when the use is allowed. They don't want to tie up their time, their money, and they usually and they will go, and they do go elsewhere.
Yeah. And Michelle, sorry.
Yeah, to continue, just and again is. So in the last 6 months, have you had restaurateurs approach you, and what kind of restaurant types approached you and perhaps may have gone away because you don't have this approval?
Sure. So I think we've had restaurateurs that would fit this memorandum of understanding and ones that wouldn't. And obviously we were working with Randy, who I mistakenly did not thank. I mean, I thanked him personally, but in front of the committee here for his efforts volunteering on behalf of Baywell to work with us in good faith. But yeah, I think the permission is both for the potential of a restaurant use that fits with the surrounding community and their vision. However, should we get a different use that is not a restaurant, I don't think we're not really necessarily a restaurant or nothing. But I think Daniel has had everything from pizza places which are not permitted in our MOU come to him through, I'm not sure, some of the other requests. But I think with COVID, it has been a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of new leases and tenants and sort of the mix up going on right now. But Daniel, if you have anything to add to Michelle.
The property's been out there marketed for all types of uses. And we did enter into an agreement with a golf retailer. So one of the units will be occupied hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months. But yeah, it's been tough with COVID, no doubt about it. But, once and if we get this approved with the uses that we do have, whether it's a sandwich shop, ice cream, juice bar. At one point, we did have Baskin Robbins looking at it. Whether or not they would look at it again without a drive-through, every restaurant wants a drive-through now. That's another story. But we'll start approaching them again and see what they say. But there has been some interest, no doubt about it. It's a great community. It's close, within walking distance of many homes. So, we get a nice ice cream shop, a chocolatier, or a candy shop, something like that. I think that would be, really great for the community.
Okay,
So
thank
we are working on it.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Clarence, please go right ahead.
Yes, another question to Mr. Furtaglio. How many units are currently vacant on the property?
We have one, two, there's three.
And what about the other units? Have there been other potential tenants approaching you folks for space?
Not so much. We entered into like I said, into a lease with a golf use, and that's been about it. We do get a lot of inquiries, but no one again has come to the table. And it does take a while, especially in this environment with what's happening. I think once spring, summer comes along, there'll probably be more of inquiries on the restaurant side.
Okay, thank you. And a question to the staff, if I may, and this reflects Mr. Henderson's observation as to whether or not we can refer to the memorandum of understanding as between the parties dated November 16, 2020 as any part of our motion. Should there be a motion to approve the application? What would be the process of doing so without having included the MOU as part of any sort of a condition?
Through the chair, Clarence, I'm not exactly sure what's being asked. Are you asked whether it can be enforced without being a condition?
No, but or perhaps maybe put another way, without any legal effects, given the memorandum of understanding is between the parties. Is there any way to have a motion that will refer to the memorandum of understanding in spite of its effects, which is that there is no legal consequences, which is what I believe Mr. Henderson wants to address, which is there any way to have that memorandum of understanding reference as part of this application, as part of a consideration, despite its legal unenforceability, at least insofar as the town is concerned.
Through the chair, should committee move to approve this application, it would just be contingent on the conditions. The memorandum of understanding was submitted, so it is noted on file. However, because we are not really able to enforce it, we do not have a mechanism to do so.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. And perhaps just a comment to both parties to the memorandum of understanding. And just for someone who has legal training, I suppose one thing that is missing from the MOU, free legal advice here, is there's no way of enforcing the agreement, in the sense that, for example, if the one party or the other, or there's issues arising out of the interpretation thereof, one might want to consider including a clause to allow the submission of the dispute before an arbitrator, so it can be decided, because otherwise you're dealing with a lawsuit between a ratepayers association, perhaps, and the landowner, the property owner, and those things go into a different way in terms of having the obligation to prove damages and the like. So you might want to consider, as between the parties, something to include in the MOU or supplementary to it to allow for a dispute resolution process, whether it be a mediation following with an arbitration. But just those are my comments. Thank you.
So, yeah, one of my comments was also going to be the copy of the memorandum of understanding that has been circulated. I'll just ask, I guess, Julian, this one is dated the 16th of November, 2020. Is that the most recent, or is that the one that we should be looking at?
Yes, this was, that's the date of signing. So that's when both parties had executed the agreement. And I think just for a little more clarity, and I appreciate and thank Mr. Clarence for the advice. I mean, I think we've known from the beginning that this was not going to be enforceable by the town. However, this forms part of the public record. So it is noted, and obviously it doesn't ensure enforcement. However, obviously arbitration would be a more favorable solution prior to any sort of court proceedings. But I think the applicant is ourselves are acting in good faith here in terms of moving forward in this regard. But we're happy to entertain any discussions. Otherwise, if an addendum is required to stipulate arbitration as a mediating step, we would entertain that. So thank you.
Yeah, this is again, Stephen, go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's a comment to Daniel and Julian. What I struggle with here is that while you may be acting in good faith, your tenants at a future date might decide not to adhere to it. And that's what we see in a lot of cases, right? And that's a lot of the concerns that we heard at the first minor variance application. So I guess my question to you would be, we heard of the troubles, and actually when I drove by, I saw some of it and stopped there. I saw some of the concerns firsthand that the community had mentioned with the Tim Hortons. So, the question is, what methods and what controls? And once again, it's a question because there's no way to enforce it. But how would you ensure that your tenants adhere to some of the restrictions that will be placed there?
I guess we do have a little bit more control from that regards in terms of we're going to be signing lease agreements, and I'm happy to share one with Randy at the time when that ever comes about, and we will include the notes and the restrictions that are included in this memorandum of understanding in that lease agreement, and we will have measurable and very available tools to enforce that on our tenants. So I think that from that point of view, we do have a little bit more muscle in terms of enforcing that with our tenants. I think Dan can probably speak to that, but we have a number of clauses, and whether it's termination or financial penalties is sort of already in some of our leases. So Daniel,
Yeah, I mean, in all our leases we put, of course, we have a use clause, and in some cases, what we do put in is uses that you can't perform on the property, or you can't engage with, and we do that with many restaurants because in the past, they want to do something that they're not allowed to do, and that's and so what we do is we put in the clause, the exact use clause, and whether or not they abide by it, I mean, it's in there. We do police our tenants. We put in clauses, again, what they can't do. It's just as important as what they can do, and their use is very, very defined. If it's a sandwich shop, it's going to say a sandwich shop, and then they can't open up, pizza place on the side or things like that. And And I think, this memorandum of understanding is important. But I think the bigger picture here, TAC Developments is a big developer in the area, and I don't think we want to, and there's a reputation when Silvio Gasper signs this. I don't think we want to take the chance of ruining, the reputation that we have and the goodwill that we have with the residents over one unit. So we're going to be very conscious of the fact that the residents have allowed us to add this use, and be very, very strict on who we allow in there, and making sure that they operate a first-class establishment. We do that in all our properties, not just College. You can visit. There's one down the street is Rural Trails. That's ours as well. And again, it's a great plaza, small users, and we look after it. And it backs onto residential as well, a little more than actually maybe College. And we're very strict on making sure that they abide by the uses that are allowed in their leases.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You go. You're okay there, Steve, with that response? Yeah. All right. Thank you. Clarence, yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a couple of questions for the staff. Should the application be granted subject to the recommended conditions of approval? Do I take it to be the case that it's effectively a variance that will last in perpetuity, including subsequent owners of the property?
Through the chair, that is correct. A minor variance carries with the property.
And as part of the consideration, another question to the staff, can there be a time limit imposed for the approval of this application subject to the conditions as recommended?
Through the chair, that is something I can look into. I believe there can be. I can look quickly and see if it's something we've done in the past.
Okay, thank you. And just back to the applicants and also Mr. Henderson as the president of the Ratepayers Association. I mean, again, I commend both parties for coming up with a solution. The reason why I asked the question is, well, Mr. Henderson, so far as this is only applicable, the MOU is between the current owner of the property if the committee decides to grant the application without any time limit imposed, and that's a question to be answered by the staff shortly, then I think it's plain that the MOU is not going to be enforceable as against subsequent owner of the property. So I just want to make sure that's understood as insofar as your representation of the members of the community.
Yeah, there's certain things we can control and certain things that are out of our control. So, we could have probably spent another 6 months and gotten a little more clarity in the document. But once again, if they sell the property tomorrow, you're right. Then, hopefully we'd be able to engage the new owner. But we don't control that. Something could happen. I could get transferred to another city in Canada tomorrow too, and people on 10 of the or 50% of the ratepayers could move, and so we can't control any of that. We're just trying to control what we can and influence what we can. So I certainly appreciate that. I think the point about the arbitration and follow up with Julian and add that in there, I think that would probably make everybody's life a little easier going forward. But yeah, it's a valid point. But I don't know. Hopefully they don't sell it tomorrow. Hopefully, it turns profitable and they keep it for a long time.
I think on that, just to add a little bit more, even if College Properties Inc. were to sell, and the tenant is there, the tenant is still tied to the terms and conditions of their lease. and let's say that it's a 10-year renewable lease, and Haulage Properties Inc. is sold in 2 years, certainly the duration of the lease and any extension would be bound by those conditions. That would certainly give the ratepayers association time to enter or bring forward the existing MOU and renegotiate that MOU with the new owners. That's again possibly a vehicle that would give the ratepayers association some peace of mind, certainly during any transition. Matthew, I saw you pop back in and wasn't sure if you have an answer. Man, you're quicker than I could ever be.
Through the chair, it's my understanding that there's nothing under the Planning Act that that speaks to time limits on variances. However, I know in other municipalities, I wasn't able to track anything here, but I know in other municipalities that it has been the case where they have imposed timelines on properties for variances.
Let me just go to Julian and then to Steve. Julian, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think Clarence, I do appreciate your concerns on behalf of the residents. I think that's part and parcel of your responsibility here. I think, a key to this is really that this is being done all in good faith. I think the application has met the 4 tests of the Planning Act. However, we are much sooner to build townhouses there than we are to sell that commercial plaza. I'll just be very, very clear on that. I wouldn't put that as a principal concern for this property at all. However, I do understand that anything is possible, according to the future of it. But I think Aurora is very dear to our hearts, and we've built beautiful communities out there, which many residents, some of you may know, live in and love to live in. And we continue to want that for Haulage and other places in Aurora. And I think, our intention is to honor that. And I think at a certain point here, we need to realize this is not going to be a legal agreement that will be perfect. But I think between Randy and ourselves and the ratepayers group, I think, we've worked hard to come back to you here today. And I just ask that be acknowledged along with the positive staff report and sort of everything we've done so far. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And I appreciate, the fact that TAC has certainly been a part of this community for a number of years. I know in my professional career, I've had knowledge of TAC's projects and endeavors in many communities, in Ontario, and recognizing that. I think the committee understands and recognizes the efforts that you and Randy and Daniel have gone to in order to bring this forward in the manner in which you have. So, Steve, I think you wanted to make an additional comment or question.
Just a comment to the committee. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that we did in a previous minor variance application did impose a temporal component on it. I believe it was a Wellington application that we approved for one of our first applications for a educational center.
Daycare, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Montessori/daycare, depending on.
Yes, we did. Stephen, thank you for that. All right. Yes, that's correct. We did. Quite a different set of circumstances, but yes, we did. Okay. I think, Clarence, go ahead.
Yeah, just on the temporal components, what if, it's between the parties, we look at imposing, or rather approving the application subject to a time limit that would permit the use of the space for a medium term, and then that would also allow, after or close to the expiration of the term, for the property owner to come back to us and see how we do. And if the term is somewhere around 7 to 10 years, would that be a solution that's acceptable? That provides for a mechanism for the property owner to come back to us and say, hey, we've done well, and we adhere to the terms of the memorandum of understanding, and together with the Ratepayers Association or members of the community that backs onto the property, and say, yeah, it's been going well, and there's no reason not to continue the process. Just to the parties and Mr. Henderson, is that something that would be acceptable as a solution?
I think that's a great way of readdressing it and trying to maintain integrity with the MOU without having to get into adding arbitration clauses and things like that. I think it's a pretty simple and straightforward way to be able to revisit the matter in a length of time that also would provide sufficient for them to have be able to write a lease that's, I don't think people are writing 7-year leases right now, but a 3 to 5 year lease is good. So 7 to 10 years, I think it's a great idea. If it's doable, we'd support that.
Any comments there on your side?
Yeah, can I just say something? Is that like, I understand where you're coming from. Just that if I have to approach a business owner that's going to invest $500,000 in the property and is going to work hard to build a business, and I've got to tell them, well, we have to revisit this, and let's say, I can't say 5 years, let's say 10 years. That's a big hurdle to overcome. Not usually, all cases, someone leases the space, doesn't always work out that way. They want to be there for 25 years, and this is where they're going to build their brand and hopefully expand to other locations and invest the $500,000 or $250,000 that you need to do all the leasehold improvements to get going. So that's the issue. That's I think a big issue there, because no one's going to, because they'll have to be disclosed. Look, you can only use this space for so many years, and so that does become a problem.
And if I may say, I mean, some of what's in our memorandum of understanding is going to limit or really disqualify any large franchises here. So we're really talking about people from the town of Aurora for the most part. And I think what Dan's speaking to is, I think imposing that creates a scenario whereby we have a non-permissive use that may overlap its lease term with the end of that zoning permission. I think that creates a very difficult scenario that I'm unless Matthew can speak further to that, I don't know exactly how that would be handled. Should there be a lease term that perhaps ends early and a new lease is signed that does not perfectly align with that timeline? And I think I can't speak to it. Daniel will have to what a average or at least quality length of time would be, but I don't think we want to disincentivize someone by not being able to provide them with a 10-year lease term, should they want to spend $500,000 or whatever it costs to open up the use of their choice. So I think I would just ask this committee to consider exactly what they're doing and acknowledge again the positive planning that is here and as well the good faith that we've done on top of of that. So sorry, I see Steve looking to speak there. So that's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Daniel, for your thoughts on that. Steve, yes.
Yeah, thank you. If I could just address those comments, while I appreciate them, I think if we were to put a temporal component, it would be sufficient that somebody making the investment would be able to build the brand. And really the only way that I would say that a committee would not give a permanent approval is if the terms of the memorandum of understanding were violated by the tenant and not enforced by the property owner. So I have difficulty. I understand the overlapping of the lease, but Daniel, to your comment about if somebody invests $500,000 or $1 million in the property and then decides not to abide by the memorandum of understanding terms or the lease terms, as you pointed out, that would really be and the community has evidence of repeated violations. That would be the only situation, and I would absolutely. I'll hand it back to you, Julian. But my point here is what I've heard today is that the conditions would be put in the lease, that they would be policed by the property owner. So I'm not seeing a situation where it wouldn't be renewed unless the MOU was violated. So I'm
Well,
yeah,
I guess what I can say from the planning perspective is that I hope all of you are here at that point in time, and I hope that I'm here and we can control what the committee decides at that point in time. But I don't know what your term is. I believe it's 2 years or 5 years, but likely this will not be the committee that decides at the time. And we cannot just, the same way you're trying to guarantee an outcome so long from now, guarantee how that committee chooses to look at your committee decision. And I think this puts us into a snowball effect. And I'm happy to work with Randy in that, you know, we can add the arbitration clauses. Randy can see the lease that somebody's going to sign before it's signed, so he can understand the enforcement policies we have. But guys, I think we're going around and around in circles here. And I mean that in all due respect, but I think we have to look back at the planning merits, look back at what we have come to with the Baywell Association here. And I understand the distrust that I guess I'm seeing from some of you, and I don't blame it. I'm not suggesting it's not willed, but at the end of the day, I think, you know, we're getting really into something that is difficult to enforce, and could create some issues in the future whereby a lease does not align with this committee. Then we have to break a lease, and I don't know how we're contractually obligated there, but if that's what the committee must do, I think we'll have to work with anything. But
oh, sorry, just from a practical point of view, I mean, you know, we've got a number of properties and a number of tenants. And believe me, if one tenant starts to cause a problem and is a headache, you know, and it could be haulage or it could be another property, you know, we're very effective in getting them out of the property or making sure that they do abide by the conditions of their lease. We're very quick on that. We just don't have the time to deal with a troublemaker or someone who's causing, you know, more problems than he's worth. You know, when one you know, use is jeopardizing the agreement we have with the community, and with the understanding that, you know, this is what he has to do under the terms of the lease. You know, there's very little patience, very little, in allowing him to continue on our property. It's just that, you know, time is very important to us, and you know, if he's causing problems and we're looking, you know, we're not looking very good with the ratepayers and with the community, we're gonna, you know, no time we would get rid of them. So that's, you know, we do police our uses extremely well. It's important for any property.
Thank you for that, those comments. I'll just, you know, from my own perspective, I understand where the ratepayers are coming from. And Daniel Lajeunesse, you asked a question earlier about the number of properties that back out onto that commercial plaza. In the general, so I went back to the actual initial submission, which showed quite clearly there's approximately 30 homes that back out onto that property end to end. In the general vicinity of the location of the unit that we're talking about, I would say approximately 17 homes would possibly be those the most concerned with some of the concerns that have been addressed or brought forward by those homeowners and the Ratepayers Association. So, yeah, just to give it context and to come back to your question earlier, Daniel, I would say that there's about 17 homes, and then across the entire back of the property, there's approximately 30. With regards to imposing a temporal element to this application, Matthew, I do believe that this committee did on Wellington Street. I believe it was a daycare. I don't know if you were part of that application or not, but there were some conditions that came up in that one that made sense, more than made sense for this committee to put a clock on that one. And that does put a administrative burden on the town to bring that forward, does it not?
Through the chair, yes, it does. And if I recall correctly, I believe it was 77 Wellington that came up, and it's my understanding that that application was actually appealed on the merit of the time restriction as well, if I'm not mistaken.
My guess is that it would be very difficult for you to find out what the status or outcome of that appeal is or was. But again, I guess that is actually a very good point because, you know, in this case, I guess the applicant would be able to appeal our decision as it relates to any temporal or conditions that they feel are not appropriate for the approval of the minor variance. That's an option that they would have. So, you know, Randy, to that point, you know, even if we did impose a time frame approval on this minor variance, there is nothing that would stand in the way of TAC appealing those conditions. And having said that, it's certainly something that I think the committee would have to take into consideration. Not the appeal process, and not that they would or could appeal it, but certainly they do have that option.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I mean, I certainly understand Daniel's and Julian's position on, you know, adding that type of restriction. You know, I'm not speaking for them, I'm speaking for us. I said that would be, you know, at this point in time, I'm hoping for the best. I think that's a great check and balance as a business person. It's always nice check and balances. You know, I also don't make, you know, business decisions on the fact of something happening, possibly happening. So, I mean, in terms of, you know, the committee taking into consideration that it might get appealed, I mean, I don't feel that that's a valid point right now. It's either, you know, you prove it or you don't, and that's your prerogative. Like I say, I'm certainly hoping for the best. I think it would be beneficial from the residents association, but I also understand Julian and Daniel's position on it too.
All right, and just Julian, for the record, Committee of Adjustment may sit for 2 terms of council. Okay, that's the cap that's put on the Committee of Adjustment. So yeah, so for example, there are 4 members on this committee who would qualify to sit on the committee for another term, and 1 member of the committee who would not. So that just gives you an idea of the timeline that that the town of Aurora works to, just so that you're familiar with that. I don't have any other comments or questions at this time. Members of the committee, or yeah, Julian, go. I'll give you one more.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think if I'm hearing Randy right, I think to sum it up, he's saying that would be nice, but not obligatory. I will not speak for him, so he can confirm or deny whether that's true. But I think we did come to this memorandum of understanding based on specific understanding. And yes, we realize we have appeal rights of any decision. And should we have to go down that path, I mean, we'll explore that. We think that the time restriction is very difficult. And I think the interest here is a financially successful plaza that has people and places and things to do, that these are positives for communities. I think that's always our intent. We are community builders. That's what we do. We take a lot of risks to go out and do that. And sure, if we have the appeal rights, we understand. But I think we came to an MOU based on understanding, and we had intentions of understanding that. And so I believe did Randy, that they would come here in positive support of the application as it was. And I guess if we're not going down that route, I guess we would have to consider that as well. But the point is we're here, and we've been working with you, everybody here, in good faith, and we just like everyone to continue to respect and appreciate that. And Randy, maybe you can clarify if this is a non-starter for you or not.
No, and I mean that came up during the meeting. I think the point, I don't think we're at odds. I mean, you're doing what you need to do, and we're trying to do what we need to do, and hopefully there's a meshing of those, and everybody, like you say, moves forward. It's a profitable plaza, and it's a plaza where we can all walk to and enjoy all the people in there. So it's not a showstopper. I think our organization would certainly like to talk to you about those other 2 points that you yourself raised. That's not the temporal issue is not a showstopper. I'm just saying, once again, from our perspective, and I can't talk to anybody else's perspective. From our perspective, that would be great, but but that wasn't our starting point at the beginning of this meeting, right?
You're right, Randy. That did come up as a matter of discussion by members of the committee. I also just want to mention I've relaxed the normal decorum that this committee operates under, recognizing that there has been some items or issues that have been brought forward by members of the committee requesting input from both the applicant and the ratepayers group. Normally, Randy, as you may or may not be aware, but once we get past the public comments, the ones that you made, our process, and I outlined that at the onset, is that we don't go back and forth like we have. And I've done that basically because I think this discussion has been fruitful. But I do want to recognize that we have relaxed our normal procedures quite a bit on this item. Members of the committee, I think we've gone around this. Michelle?
Just through the chair, you had a question for Matt to go check on some data points. Can we just circle back to see if he had come up with anything for us?
Yes, a good suggestion. So Matthew, have you had any success in checking into the appeal and the decision of on that, or status on that file?
Through the chair, I'm not having any luck tracking it down. I'd like to scratch that the appeal was made on the basis of the time restrictions. That may be incorrect. So I just want to make that clear for the record.
Yes.
Having said that, that application is completely independent of this one, and therefore different uses. So I think with my planning opinion here is let's stick to the 4 tests on this application.
Yeah, and that's our responsibility, members, is the 4 tests and the merits of the application as submitted, with the addition of the staff addendum that was prepared on December the 10th, and the acknowledgement that there is an MOU in place. So on that, I'll ask, is there a motion on this application? I'll look to Michelle. You'll need to turn on your mic. You're on mute.
Yep, I got it. I was just looking at the document.
Thank you.
All right, so yes, so through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion first to acknowledge the receipt that we do have a Committee of Adjustment memorandum dated December 10th in conjunction with a file number MV-2020-10, which is from the Committee of Adjustment staff report of June 15th. And with that, through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve MV-2020-10. Along, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report in Appendix A.
Okay, thank you for capturing that. Look for a seconder on that motion. Okay. Seeing that there is no seconder for that motion, I am going to pass the chair to the vice chair. So Clarence, you now have the chair, and I will second the motion which has been submitted and made by Michelle.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Calling the question to order. So, all in favor? All opposed? I'll pass the chair back to you, Tom.
Thank you. So that motion has not passed. Therefore, I will look, is there any other motion on this particular application? Clarence?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the application MV 2020-10, subject to the recommended conditions of approval as outlined in the staff report, with a time restriction pursuant to Section 45, Sub 9 of the Planning Act for a term of 15 years, on the basis that the memorandum of understanding as between the parties doesn't provide for a sufficient mechanism for enforcement. And in my view, a time limit of 15 years would provide the necessary basis for the property owner to come back before the committee in order to ensure that during the course of the time limits that the terms within a memorandum of understanding dated November 16, 2020 remains to be adhered to in good faith by the property owner.
So in summary, and just to boil it down, your motion would be to approve the application subject to the conditions in the existing staff report with a time limit, a temporal period of 15 years. So I will look.
Yes.
Yes, so I'll look for a seconder on that motion. Okay, so. All right. I kind of like that. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to pass the chair to, no, I can't do that. All right, so seeing that there is no seconder for that motion, that motion does not move forward. Clarence, so you can amend it if you wish, or a member of the committee could suggest an amendment to it if they wish.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I withdraw my motion.
All right. All right, so I will pass the chair then again to Clarence.
Yes, thank you.
And I will make a motion. The motion that I will bring forward will be to go back to the beginning here. So with regards to minor variance MV 2020-10, I will make a motion that this minor variance be denied on the basis that it does not meet all four tests of the Planning Act with respect to the appropriateness of the development of on the lot as not being desirable in light of the fact that there is a restriction on the property limiting the number of restaurants to one, and that the intent of the current zoning is to reflect that restaurants in particular be limited to one on the site. And that would be my motion.
Thank you. Anyone second the motion? All right, calling the question to order. All in favor of denying the application? 4 oppose the denying of the application.
Michelle, how did you vote?
Nope, if you can unmute yourself, Michelle. You're still on mute, it looks like, Michelle.
I oppose the motion.
Okay, so it's
all right. So 4 in favor of denying the application and 1 opposed. And
yeah,
so I'll pass the torch back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Clarence. So you can see the dilemma that that we are facing here, gentlemen, that the committee certainly struggled with an approval, and then struggled with an approval with a time component attached to it. So in order to see where the committee sat, you had the chair turn the chair over to the vice chair in order to bring a motion forward that you can see clearly, unfortunately, given the circumstances and for the reasons that were stated, which go back to the original meeting, the concerns of the community at large, the ratepayers, and the conditions that were, I'll say, imposed at the time that the the project came forward and the concerns that were expressed at that time and the conditions at that time seem to be the status that the committee wants to impose. So with that, unfortunately, we are in a position where we could not approve the application. So with that, I'm going to move forward with the agenda. And I'll thank TAC and the Ratepayer Association president for being with us this evening. I appreciate your time and appreciate your work on this to try and bring this forward in a manner that that we could review it. And I'll bid you a good evening. And I'll move forward with item 5 on the agenda is call for new business. Is there any new business arising? Any new business from staff?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have no new business.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll look for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion to adjourn, Daniel, thank you very much. And we are adjourned. Thank you all for being with us this evening. We are